On this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast, I have the voice of the Atlanta Hawks television broadcast, Bob Rathbun, on the show, and we talk about his broadcast career, favorite calls that he's had, some of the favorite players that he has talked to. We talk about the Hawks, their current team, and what he thinks about them, how they're going to shape up. And then we talk about the NBA talk in general. Who does he see coming out the East and West and all that sorts of fun stuff on a very basketball heavy podcast. So without any further ado, hope you enjoy the show. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. And with me today is someone that if you are a fan of Atlanta sports, if you are a Georgia, Atlanta native, you'll probably know at least his voice if you watch Atlanta Hawks games. He is the television voice of the Atlanta Hawks, Bob Rathbun. How's it going, Bob?
Good, Alex. How are you? Good to be with
Good.
you.
I really appreciate you agreeing to come on the show because right now we're right in the midst of the NBA preseason, the very truncated NBA preseason, and a very weird time with the NBA as it's been less than 90 days, less than 3 calendar months since the season ended. But it's an exciting time. How are you very excited getting back to calling the games right now?
Oh, gosh, yes, especially for the Hawks. We were one of the 8 teams that got left out of the bubble. So we have
Yeah.
not played since March 11th, less the 2 preseason games we had last weekend. So, yeah, we're very excited. Got a brand new ball club. Can't wait to get back at it and get this season going.
Absolutely. So, how long have you been the television broadcaster for the Atlanta Hawks? How many different teams have you seen essentially?
Yeah, this is my 25th year coming up.
So, you have seen the pretty dang good and the pretty dang bad and everything that comes in between
Right.
because the Atlanta Hawks have been kind of everywhere, especially over the last 2.5 decades. So, you've had to have a fun time covering them. I'm curious, with someone with your experience, 25 years, you've been doing it for a good amount of time. You made a great career out of it. How would you have any moments that you call back to that every once in a while you think of and you're like, man, that was one of my favorite times being, doing commentary for the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, no question, the 60-win team we had here 5 years ago that went to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in our history was really special. We did things that haven't been duplicated since and probably won't be. To
Yeah.
see a team go unbeaten the entire month of January, to have a 19-game winning streak, win 60 games for the first time in franchise history. It was just a lot of things that went on that it was just so great. And it, as much fun as the winning was and the televising of those games was, the best part was just to see the whole city come alive.
Mhm.
Everybody was a Hawks fan. They played team basketball. They moved the ball. Everybody shared the wealth. No superstar to dominate. They were truly a team that was greater than the sum of its parts. And I think everybody just got swept up in how exciting it was and how much fun it was because they just had that. It just all came together, and they just had that certain it factor that um, you walk down the floor and you felt like you're going to win. And there aren't many times in the NBA that you get a team like that. And we had it. And had we not gotten all banged up toward the end, I think we had a really good shot to go to the NBA Finals. And I know that means beating LeBron, but I do think we had the team that year to do it. I'm not sure we would have beaten Golden State, but I do think we had Cleveland's number that year and would have advanced to the finals.
That's got to be one of the most bizarre parts is the way the Hawks did it, like you said, was playing team basketball, but the overall shooting was unbelievable that year, especially from beyond the arc. And it would have been such an interesting time to see that Atlanta Hawks team go against that Golden State team where Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, the Splash Brothers, were in full tilt there. So we would have just been seeing three upon three upon three. Does your voice ever get tired? Did your voice get tired that year from having to do so many
No,
high-pitched 3-point
no.
calls, or was just the adrenaline going every single
Oh
game?
yeah. I mean, you couldn't wait to get to the arena. I chuckle because of all the talk of load management and back-to-backs and all this nonsense. And that team, we never thought about playing back-to-backs. We never thought of anybody was tired. We never
Yeah.
thought anybody had to worry about load management. We couldn't wait to get to the arena and play. So no, it was a joyride, just a magic carpet all the way. It was just great fun.
So do you get the enjoyment of meeting most of the players, if not all the
Oh
players
yeah.
that are on the team? So
Uh-huh.
who has been your favorite player overall to just first off interact with? Who has been someone, and it might not be someone that many fans know because a lot of the times I bring back to a guy. I'm going to go to baseball real quick, but I'm a Yankees fan, and one of my buddies used to work for the Yankees, and he said Nick Swisher was the nicest guy on the planet. Would just be nice to every single person. He had a little bit of bravado about him. So it's weird to find out which one of those guys is really picked. So for you, if you want to name a few or one specific, who did you build a good relationship with that was always great to work with and friendly with you?
Oh boy, uh, so many. When I came, the guys on the first team that I had have remained close friends. Guys like Dikembe Mutombo and Steve Smith. I loved Mookie Blaylock and the guys, and really every team that we've had since.
Hmm.
The guys are great guys, and I think you find that in the NBA. 99% of the people are really good and fun to be around. And the alumni have remained close over the years. So once you play here, you're always a Hawk. You're always in the family.
Yep.
So it's been great to have them around as we go forward. Many make their homes here post retirement. So uh, it's been great to stay in touch with the guys over the years. But I've had so many favorite people come through. It'd be hard to list just a few. But
You don't want to offend
Steve
anybody.
Smith.
You're getting Christmas cards from all their families, so you don't want to
Yeah,
offend any
Steve
of them.
Smith, I called his games and then he worked with me as my
Yeah,
color
yeah.
guy. So, we've stayed close. Of course, Dominique is with me for the past 10 years doing a
Hmm.
color now, the
Yep.
greatest talk of all time. Matumbo is here. We see him all the time. But it was the guys that, like you talked about with Nick Swisher, it was the Ty Corbins, the Allen Hendersons and people like
Hmm.
that weren't the limelight guys, but great people and fun to be around.
Now, did you find that kind of the grinders, kind of the more of the bench guys, or maybe the 10th through 12th guys who were really grinding to stay on a team and get minutes? Did you find that their personalities of being grinders kind of translated to maybe being a little more humble, to maybe being a little more personable, or has everyone kind of been pretty great from the superstars down?
Yeah, I think one of the great misconceptions about the NBA is, first of all, there's 450 guys in this league, and 400 of them are grinders.
Hmm.
They're role players. There are very, very, very few superstars, and then very few stars. There's 30 teams. It's a lot of guys, and almost all of them, and I'm talking about 90% of this league. They're all role players. Um, what makes There are no bad players in the NBA. There are bad teams because the mix doesn't fit. The pieces don't come together, but the players themselves are outstanding. So I think that's one of the great misconceptions, that you got to be a grinder, if you're at the end of the bench. Well, that goes for probably three or four starters too. Um, you got to have a little bit of everything, to make it come together in the NBA. There's no magic formula, as much as the media tries to make it that way. You got to have three superstars. You got to have this, you got to have that. Teams come in all different shapes and sizes.
Yep.
The Detroit Pistons won a championship and they had no superstar.
Hmm.
Uh, the 60 win team that we talked about a minute ago, no great superstar. So it can be done in different ways. Um, the one thing about a superstar, and there aren't that many to go around, there's only like four or five of them.
Yep.
But the one thing that they do is that they can carry a team in the biggest games at the most crucial moment, and they make everybody around them better. This has been the secret to LeBron's success. No matter what team he's been with, he has not had the greatest cast of characters around him when you take LeBron out of the mix. I look at a guy like Kentavious Caldwell Pope of the Lakers. He's a Georgia kid. Went to high school here. Went to UGA. He's a he's a borderline mediocre NBA player. I mean, he's
Yep.
a good player. Don't get me wrong, but
He's
I
a
mean,
role
he's no
player or
star.
rotation guy. Yeah.
But you put him on a team with LeBron, and now all of a sudden he was their third best player
Hmm.
in a championship run. Where if you took LeBron and Anthony Davis out of that picture, then there's no way Davis Caldwell Pope would have that kind of a season. So that's what the superstars do. That's what the challenge is ahead for Giannis to make Milwaukee that. LeBron does that. Um, Chris Paul does that. There's just a handful of guys that can really make a team better than it would be without them.
Definitely. Definitely. So switching gears so that you don't offend any people by saying that they're your favorite people. We're gonna jump and something that maybe you can recall a little better because even though you probably make so many calls from game to game, do you have any favorite call that sticks out in your head in a game that you have made that you sometimes again just think back and was like, man, that was, not only did I do my job well, but it was a great moment to be in.
Yeah. Um, Boy, hard to say. Great question. Hard to say. I don't script out, you know, like your boy John Sterling, I don't do that. I just kind of let it come, and then whatever comes out of my mouth comes out. I don't really script anything. I don't have a signature call,
You could even
if
say
you
Ian
would.
Eagle with my Nets. He has all the nicknames for a lot of the guys. Ian doesn't necessarily script things, but he does have a ton of nicknames for all the
Yeah,
players.
yeah, yeah. That's fine,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I do too. I just don't really, think much of it.
Yep.
Um, but we're just trying to, call the game and have a good time. Um, if I think if Neek and I are having fun, then the audience is having fun,
Yeah.
because 95% of the people who watch us are Hawks fans, and we tailor our broadcast to them. But, it was just like Corver hit 4 threes in a minute in a game, which was a lot of fun. You knew the ball was going to the basket before it left his hand.
Yeah.
And those moments come along, they're very special. Uh, Corver, I remember, hit a three against Golden State in that 60-win season that brought the house down. That was a lot of fun. Beating the Celtics in the playoffs in Boston. I remember saying on the air, the only thing missing is to get Neek to go to the locker room and put on a uniform and just stand on the court when the final horn sounds, so he can say he beat the Celtics in Boston.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
stuff like that. Comes to mind.
Definitely. So, again, you seem like you have a lot more time to do it because you seem to still be loving what you're doing, which is great. And I think that this current itinerary of the team is going to keep you young because they are a young team.
Mhm.
They're a group that you mentioned definitely can be a lot of fun this year because I personally think that the Hawks have a pretty good group of young guys and a fun little nucleus there that's developing that can make them into a pretty good team. They added Bogdan Bogdanovic this year, who is a budding player himself to go play shooting guard. They
Mhm.
have Trey Young. DeAndre Hunter played well last year. John Collins can score the ball. That's just your starters. We're going to talk about Trey Young first, though, because obviously he's the guy. Came out of Oklahoma, first year had a little banged up, averaged almost 20 a game. Last year took a big jump. I think he averaged 29 points a game, was one of the leaders in the league in scoring. What are we expecting from Trey Young in year three? What do you think that he is knocking on the door of those echelon of superstars that you talk about, where he's going to begin to make everybody better on the team? Is he the superstar that the Hawks need him to be?
Yeah, he's a very unique player at his size. Remember, he's
Yep.
if he's 6 feet tall, it's a stretch. I mean, he's a little fellow, and
Yeah.
there's always going to be challenges for him, particularly when we get to the playoffs. Just like the Celtics had with Kemba.
Hmm.
It's very difficult when you get down to crunch time, when your point guard is a small guy, because the rest of the league can zero in on you and
Hmm.
and take advantage. But that's down the road. Let's get to the playoffs first. This kid is one of the most unique scorers I think we've ever seen in the NBA. I mean, he's sort of a tiny Archibald, if you're familiar with that name.
Yep.
Throwback, a guy that could lead the league in scoring and assists in the same
Mhm.
season like Tiny did. He's that unique. He's an uncanny passer. Um, he reminds me a lot of Pete Maravich, who
Okay.
played with the
Wow.
Hawks back in the early 70s. Just that, and it wasn't just the passes that he made, it was the flair with which he made them. And I see a lot of that in Trey. Incredible vision. He can make a pass with the offhand, drill it. Uh, Nothing he can't do passing the basketball. And then because of his size, he's had to learn to develop a deep shot. And shooting from 27 to 30 feet is not that big a deal for him. With accuracy, there's not too bad. I'm sure he'd like to make a few more, but he shoots the ball very, very well when you consider the distance that's involved. Most guys, when they get out that deep, they lose a little bit. It's more of a heave than
Mhm.
it is a shot, but not for him. That's something he's practiced forever, and it comes very naturally to him. All that said, I think for the Hawks to win and to utilize the assets that have been accumulated around him, uh, Trey doesn't have to score 30 points a night. They've got enough guys now to take the load off of him and can get him off the ball some.
Yep.
Uh, there's enough shooting. Gallinari's here. Bogdanovich is here. You've got Cam. You've got Hunter. You got a bunch of guys that can fill it up. So he doesn't have to score like he did. And I think if he does try to score 30 a game, it will hurt us actually, because everybody else then will just be standing around. He had the fourth highest usage rate in the NBA last year.
Yeah.
That cannot continue for us to progress and grow as a team. So if he doesn't have the gaudy stats like he did last year, fourth in the league in scoring, second in the league in assists, it's okay. Uh, what he's got to do is prove he can win. And I think he can do that with lesser numbers, but more effect of what he can do. Uh, he should have more room to operate, actually. Uh, you cannot leave Bogey and you can't leave Gallinari and you can't leave John Collins and all these people. You just can't leave them. And that should give him a little more freedom to operate.
Definitely, yeah. To me, he's one of three guys in the NBA that you have to cover him the moment he gets to the half court line. Him,
Mhm.
Damian Lillard, and Steph Curry, and that's a really good group of guys to be included with because obviously his other two peers are two of the best point guards in the NBA.
Yep.
Rajon Rondo came on this team as a free agent this year. He already said he's trying to fill Vince Carter's kind of role as the older mentor on the team. He's also a smaller guard. He doesn't have the shot, but he can score. He has had scoring prowess in the NBA before. He's tough. He plays great defense, and he's definitely still one of the best passers in the NBA, Rajon Rondo. What is his tutelage going to do for Trey Young? I don't think Trey Young needs any more confidence, and because he's a confident guy, he plays with a chip on his shoulder. But what can Rajon Rondo do in terms of leadership and also on the floor? Because, like you said, I could see them putting Rajon on the floor with Trey Young and kind of making Trey Young go play the two off the ball. And that could help him a lot as well, opening him up to just get spot up threes, which is, easy for Trey Young to hit. So, what does Rajon Rondo bring to this team?
Well, I wish you'd asked me in a couple of weeks when I could see him. He hasn't played for us yet.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for him to make his debut. At this stage of his career and playing as late as he did into October, as he did with the Lakers, I think they're going to take it easy with Rondo early on. But you're dead on with the mentorship that he provides. Our young guys, of the clips I've seen of practice, uh, cling to him like a puppy dog. I mean, they are just soaking it up daily. And it's knowledge, but it's got to be knowledge applied. Um, he's got to get out there and show that he can still do it.
Mhm.
And that helps reinforce the points that he's trying to make with Trey and others. The same thing with Vince. Even though Vince was 42 years old, he was 20 years older than some of these guys.
Yep.
They had such great respect for him, but he could still go out and play,
Oh, yeah.
and so he could show them. And I remember talking to Vince last year. He said, the things that I'm telling them, really won't come into effect until they get good and get to be a playoff team.
Mhm.
Then this that I'm telling them will resonate a little bit more. It's hard when you're 20 and 47 like we were last year.
Yeah.
Uh, but those lessons will come to the fore. And I think as we get better and progress through this season, the lessons that Rondo will tell them will be ever present in their minds, and they can apply them right away. But he's got 2 rings. When he speaks, people listen, and he's a very cerebral guy. He'll help Lloyd. Um, I mean, he's a really good guy to have around, and I'm thrilled that he decided to come here.
Yeah, it's a good team. You mentioned the playoffs a few times. When you look at this team, obviously you've only seen the new guys come in and play a little bit, but when you just look at this team on paper and a little bit that you've seen clips in practice and the preseason games, is this a team that could sneak into the playoffs? Because the East is deeper than I think it's been in a really long time with
Mhm.
the Nets now with Durant, Irving. You have Giannis is definitely now staying for the next 5 years. He had the extension recently with the Bucks. Um, the Celtics, Raptors. You can go on and name a bunch of teams that are relevant and legitimate teams. So
Mhm.
the playoffs are going to be much more difficult. Is this a team that can turn a 20-win season into 40 plus wins and fight for a playoff?
Well, we're going to find out. I think it's. I want to get to 500. Let's see where we are.
Yeah.
That would be a quantum leap. We were 27 games under 500 last year. To be 500 means 36 wins in a 72 game schedule.
Yep.
That would be a considerable leap. One thing I was talking to before we did this tonight, I was talking to our season ticket holders, and I said, the one thing about this core group of young people the Collins and Hunter and Reddish and Trey and Herter and those guys, I said, you got to understand, these guys have not played 1 minute, 1 second of pressurized basketball
Yeah.
where they had to win. It's been sort of a learn on the job joyride.
Mhm.
That's over. And we've got the kind of depth now that if you're not performing, you're going to sit down. That goes for any of them, Trey included. So there's got to be a shift mentally for this team to make the playoffs. We've got to go out there and expect to win and demand that winning performance is rewarded, and the bad habits of losing are punished. And that's the way you grow as a team. It's got to hurt to lose. And this core group, not the new guys, because they've been through it, but the young guys, they don't know any pain in losing.
Mhm.
Yeah, everybody wants to win, but this is like AAU losing. Uh, we lost a 10 a.m. game. We got another one at 4 o'clock, and we got to break out of that mindset. We've got to attack this like this is real professional basketball, and that's sort of the first step to getting there, to
Yep.
becoming a playoff team. I think you're right about the East. I think it's very underrated. I think a lot of that is driven by the media narrative.
Oh yeah.
Basketball people understand, but the people who cover this league on a national basis don't really do a very good job of encompassing the entire league to see what's going on. They
Mhm.
couldn't tell you who starts for Charlotte. They couldn't tell you who starts in Utah. They just don't pay attention. They want to get invited to LeBron's next birthday party.
Yeah.
So all the coverage is about the glamour guys, Giannis and LeBron and Durant and Kyrie, but they forget about the rest of the 25 other teams. You have not. So I applaud you. The East is much deeper. You've probably got 6 teams that are ahead of us right now,
Yeah.
without question. Uh, certainly the Celtics, Philly, Toronto, Milwaukee, Miami. Who am I leaving out?
If Brooklyn's healthy. If
Yeah, the
if
Nets.
KD and Kyrie are
Yeah,
healthy, that's
KD and Kyrie. So
probably
that's 6 right there.
yeah.
That are clearly on their way to great seasons.
Mhm.
Where we fit in is somewhere probably in that 7 to 10 range.
Yeah.
I think we got a chance to get up there.
Mhm.
Maybe 7, maybe 6 if everything goes right. I do think we have better depth than Toronto does right now. I will say that.
Yeah.
Uh, but you got to prove it. Having all this talent is one thing, and it's great, but it's an accelerated camp. We only have 4 preseason games. We've already got 2 left. We got a long way to go, a short time to get there. Next Wednesday night, it's for real. I mean, the
Yeah, it's
bullets start
wild.
flying,
Wild.
and 4 of our first 5 are on the road. We open in Chicago, we go right back to Memphis, where we're playing these last 2 preseason games, come home and play Detroit, and then we go to Brooklyn. And we got 2 up there with the Nets. And we got to be in New York City New Year's Eve, a New Year's Day game. I don't know how that's going to go.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a very taxing first couple of weeks with a new team that's sort of learning its way. What I don't want to see happen to us is stumble out of the gate. If we start 3-9, you know,
Put
12 games,
yourself
and
in
you're
a hole right
chasing,
away.
you're
Yeah.
chasing it.
Yep.
You're chasing it. You gotta win 2 out of 3 and win 2 out of 3 and win 2 out of 3, and then get back to where you want to be. And we don't even know what the second half of the schedule is going to be like. We know we got to make another West Coast trip. We know we're done in the first half. We're done with Boston and Brooklyn. We know that.
Hmm.
So if you're chasing them, then you don't have any opportunities in the second half to make ground up head to head. So I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, but first and foremost is not getting buried at the start.
So I have a question that came from one of my good buddies, Kyle Doctor. He has a show on the network that we're on, the Opinions Podcast Network.
Uh-huh.
He is an Atlanta sports fan. We're both from Jersey. I'm living in New York right now. I have a nor'easter destroying us right now. There's snow everywhere outside.
Yeah,
But
I heard.
yeah, we're already probably nearing half a foot soon, and it only started right
Oh,
around like
wow.
6:30.
How
So it's
much you
gonna
gonna
get
get?
fun. They're predicting anywhere between 16 and 22 inches. So it's gonna be fun.
Woo!
But he's an Atlanta sports fan. He started off with the Braves, and then that's years ago, and now he's kind of picked up on everyone.
Uh-huh.
One of the things that he always criticizes Atlanta fans for is they are very fickle, and they're great fans, but they're "what have you done for me lately" fans is how he calls a lot
Uh-huh.
of them. So he wants to know, what do you think the Hawks need to do to kind of get out of the cellar? For whatever reason, they seem to be one of the cellar dwellers, where the soccer team has taken the city by storm. The Braves are there, but the Hawks have had great seasons. And like you said, the 60-win season, everyone was a Hawks fan. Now they know who Trey Young is. So what do they need to do in order to get themselves to a point where they are a mainstay, big following, big fan base type of team in Atlanta?
Yeah, well, it's hard when labels get applied
Hmm.
to shake them in the national consciousness until you go out and win and do it consistently. I think our Hawks fans are great, and I think Atlanta sports fans are great. People just don't understand that we don't have the history that Boston, New York, Philadelphia have.
Hmm.
We're relatively late to the party. Um, the Yankees have been playing baseball a long time. We haven't had that here. This has been a city that has had its heart just ripped out uh, with awfulness that's happened to us. Losing, there's two events just for the Hawks. Forget about the Falcons and the Super Bowl and the Braves and everything else.
Yep.
But 2 moments in Hawk history, like Game 7, Bird and Magic. I mean, Bird and Neek.
Yep.
If that game, that's a second round series.
Hmm.
It wasn't even the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
But if Atlanta had won Game 6 or Game 7 and beaten the Celtics and beaten Bird, McHale, and Parrish and those guys and gone on to the Eastern Conference Finals, what would that have done for this franchise at that time in the mid 80s? We'll never know.
Yeah. No.
What would having gone to the NBA Finals meant in 2015 for this city, this franchise? We'll
Hmm.
never know. But this city was absolutely on fire
Yep.
when we won the 60 games. So it's there. And the Falcons fans are there and the Braves fans are there. We just, we're sick of losing.
Hmm.
We are not one of those cities like like Chicago, for example. Until the last couple of years, even after Michael left, they were getting 23,000 at the United Center. Well, we're not that kind of a city.
Hmm.
You we got to win to get it going. But when we do, they will be there, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. They're there. We have some of the most loyal and dedicated fans to hang in there with us year after year. Um, they're great. We don't have a ton of them. We don't have waiting lists of 30 and 40 per seat for season tickets like they do in some other cities. But we're getting there. This is a top 10 market. Our owner will do anything, spend any amount of money to get us over the finish line. We have a brand new arena. We have a brand new practice facility. We have a G League team. We have everything you need. The only thing missing is the productivity on the floor. And I think that will come.
I understand the difficult struggle in terms of fandom because I'm not a recent Brooklyn Nets fan. I'm a New Jersey Nets fan.
Mhm,
So I remember watching quite literally the worst team to ever play a season
mhm.
and win the least games. And, like you said, I would go to Prudential Center and watch games and there'd be nobody there. You'd be able to sit
How
there,
about the
buy seats in
Meadowlands?
the Meadowlands, exactly, buy seats in nosebleeds and walk down basically to the floor and no one was stopping you. They just wanted a TV to see people there. Great. Go sit down there. It got tough. And even after the back-to-back finals, it was similar to what went on in Atlanta. Once that was done, New Jersey, their fans were essentially done. They weren't paying anymore to go watch these games. I'll watch it on Yes, I'll watch it on TV. Brooklyn's been a different thing because, like you said, it's New York. It's just something to do for people in the city. So they'll go buy a Brooklyn ticket and they'll go watch the games. They're pretty full most of the time. But the problem Brooklyn has had, which I don't know if Atlanta has, is because they're in a bigger place, because they're in the city where there's a lot of different fandoms, another big team comes in. And when the Nets weren't good in Brooklyn, there would be more fans of the opposing team than there were of the Nets. The Sixers would usually have more fans. The Knicks always had more
That's
fans.
true. That's
The
true.
Lakers had
Every
more fans.
city in the NBA.
It's so bizarre. I think right now, like you said, they cover Durant and Kyrie. So now Brooklyn is going to have majority fans
Mhm.
of Brooklyn there because there's a lot of Kyrie and there's a lot of Durant fans. But believe me, I get 100% what you're saying about the fans in Atlanta, and they're there. They want to see a winning product. If they're going to spend their money, they want to spend it on a winning product.
Mhm.
Speaking of products, we have the season coming on. Like you said, it's 72 games this year. It's a shortened year, but that's what we're going to be going with. So we need to all get used to that. Um, One of the questions I have for you, because we're all living through this pandemic, we're all living through COVID-19, coronavirus. The vaccine is starting to be trickled out and distributed, but there is no, uh, you know, cure. We don't know if this is going to really do what it says to do. There's a lot that needs to go on. So with that, sports are still iffy. It's not 100% what's going to happen with the sports area.
Mhm.
Um, do you think we're going to see a full season this year? Are we going to
Absolutely.
see all 72 games?
Absolutely. No question in my mind. And a complete playoff. And I think that if this vaccine takes and it's distributed, I think we will have fans in the stands by April.
That's awesome.
And I think we got a chance the deeper in the playoffs. Remember now, we're not going to start the playoffs till Memorial Day. This whole regular season thing is gonna take a while.
Hmm.
But once we get rolling, by Memorial Day into June, July, we might have full houses at playoff games. I mean,
Wow.
I could see that happening.
Do you
You know, we
foresee a?
we're, we've just gotten Alex, we've just gotten so numb to this.
Mhm.
Uh, this is the worst thing that's happened in 100 years to us.
Oh yeah.
Um, the lives that have been lost, uh, our owners. I mean, every family's been touched by it.
Yeah.
Our owner lost his brother. Uh, Never had a chance to say goodbye to him.
Sorry to hear that.
I mean, it's just and it's everybody. Look at what Carl Anthony Towns
Yeah. Yeah.
has had to go through with his family. So this thing is just awful. People have lost jobs, and it's just awful. But I do believe, I mean, the medical community has rallied so. Uh, we've seen something happen with this vaccine that not very many people thought could happen. To last Thanksgiving of 2019, this virus did not exist. And by Christmas of 2020, in a worldwide pandemic, we've rolled out a vaccine to help people. And when you think about the enormity of that, not just for the United States, but for the world, what this will mean is amazing. It's beyond what anybody could think. Uh, that said, the pent up emotions and demand for just getting out of our homes, being able to hug our neighbor and our family and our
Yeah.
friends, just to be able to go to a ball game, to a movie, to dinner, the bounce back, the snap back that is coming this spring and certainly this summer is going to be tremendous. And I, for one, I cannot wait. And I think if we can just hang in there and get through this time of winter, as the vaccines get rolled out and treatments are refined and gotten improved and all that stuff, we're going to see in our little corner of the world, the sports entertainment world, we're going to see a tremendous resurgence. Uh, Getting fans back in the stands. We've almost forgotten what it's like to go to a game. We forgot. We don't you see yourself watching these old clips of football stadium that's full? Like, boy, that looks weird.
Well, it's like you look at things and you see and you look at it and you go, oh, no one's wearing a mask. That has to be from before last year. Like
Right.
it's a common thought and it's
Right.
insane right now. So, Bob, I really hope you're right. And if you're right, I'm going to hold you to this. I'm going to be calling you for a ticket to come over, a few tickets to come down to Atlanta and watch a game.
Absolutely. Come on.
So, obviously, you don't think that there's going to be a bubble used again this season. Everyone's going to be
No,
playing in their own
nobody
stadium.
has the appetite for that.
Awesome.
No.
Awesome. So, last thing before we go, I'm putting you on the spot. Who do you have coming out the East and the West, and who's your champion?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to pick the Lakers. They're just as long as whatever team LeBron's on, has got a pretty good chance. What's he been to 8 of the last 10 finals or something?
I'd say probably still for almost another decade. LeBron
Yeah,
doesn't seem like he's slowing
he'll
down.
never slow down. He'll play till he's 100.
Yeah.
East, I really don't know. I haven't seen enough of everybody yet to get a feel. I'm kind of intrigued with Brooklyn.
Does Jason Tatum now being 6'10" change anything for you? The fact that he keeps on growing?
Yeah. So like his bank account.
Yeah, seriously.
The Celtics don't turn me on. They didn't turn me on last year because the depth, they just don't have the depth.
Yeah.
And if any one of those three get hurt and Kemba's already on a busted wheel, they got nowhere to go.
Yeah.
The Celtics are a notch down, I believe. I am not a Philadelphia fan. I just maybe Doc can turn around again. I haven't seen him enough yet. And Doc's a wonderful coach, obviously very near and dear to us.
Yes.
And we love him dearly. He'll instill some confidence in a system that maybe they didn't have before. But until, they stop turning the ball over and until they take decent shots and Ben Simmons is not afraid to shoot a three and all these things, I just don't see Philadelphia as a disciplined, skilled team to make a decent run. They had their chance and they blew it, fate, certainly with that Kawhi shot in Toronto. But overall, I'm just not impressed with them. I think they've traded away too many good pieces, and I think they'll pay the price for that. Milwaukee is going to be a great regular season team. All the pressure is going to be on Bud and Giannis to win in the playoffs. I think Miami is going to be solid, but it wouldn't shock me to see them not return to the Eastern Conference Finals. I thought they had a terrific run in the bubble. Um, so I think the East is wide open. I really do. I think it. I'm not really quite sure how this is going to shake out. I need to see a little bit more yet.
I really want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to be nice. I was going to force you to make an answer, but I'll be nice.
Well,
So-
you know, usually by this time we would know.
Mhm.
Well, when Lenny
So
Wilkins
weird.
was our
Yeah.
coach,
Yep.
I used to ask him this all the time.
Mhm.
Where do you see us? How good can we be? And he would always say, Bob, let's see where we are after 20 games, and I can give you a better opinion.
Yeah, it's a quarter of the year.
Yeah. We play 20
Normally.
games. I'll know our strengths and weaknesses and what we have to overcome and all that. And I
Yep.
feel that way about this. It's not a cop out. I mean, nobody's got a crystal ball, but
Yeah.
um, I just think I need to see a little bit of this under battle. Brooklyn intrigues me. I will say that. I'm not sure quite how that's going to work with a rookie coach and two big egos like that. But, Durant is as amazing a scorer, I think, as this league has ever seen. I put him up there with Wilt and, all the greats because you cannot stop his shot.
Mhm.
A guy, he's 7 feet tall. He's almost shooting down at the basket at the
Yeah.
top of his shot. So um, he's going to make a difference in the East, and I pray that he's healthy. Um,
Yeah, me too.
yeah, and I think Brooklyn's got a chance to make some noise.
So the Nets fan in me just said that you picked the Nets and you picked them to win it all. So I'm going to take that, Bob. That's what we're going to get out of this, that you just picked the Nets to win it all. On the
Well,
record, Bob Rathbun, the
your
voice of the Hawks,
your
picked.
point guard thinks the Earth's flat, so
He didn't. He said he actually took that back. He said he apologizes because he fell down a YouTube wormhole where he just kept clicking different videos about it. He's since been educated, and now Kyrie does not believe that anymore.
good.
All right. So with that, that's going to end this episode of the Sports Opinions podcast. Bob, thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Again, he's Bob Rathbun. He's the voice of the Atlanta Hawks for over a decade and a half now, going into a decade and a half. He's been doing it. Bob, anywhere people can find you on social media?
Sure. I'm on Twitter. I'm on all of them: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn,
Mhm.
Twitter, and Instagram. Probably the easiest to find me at Bob Rathbun, Rathbun TV, and you can hit me up on both right there.
Very nice. And you want to give your networks or anywhere a shout out that you do the show for anyone that's in the greater Atlanta area
Yes.
that
Well, I'm
doesn't tune
sure
in
that
yet?
everybody watching this has League Pass,
I
so
hope
you can
so.
watch
God.
every Hawks game. Our local network is the biggest and it's actually the biggest regional in the country,
There you go. That's
bigger
awesome.
than, bigger than MSG
There you
because
go.
we go to 8 states down here. So,
Yeah.
our network is Fox Sports South
Mhm.
and Fox Sports Southeast. We run 2 networks out of Atlanta. The regional network that the Hawks are on is Fox Sports Southeast, and that's where you'll see our games that pop up on League Pass.
Awesome. Again, I'm Alex Cuesta, host of the Sports Opinions podcast. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @A_Cuesta30. Find Sports Opinions on Twitter at Sports Opinion 30, Instagram, Sports Opinions 30. And now the whole network, the Opinions Podcast Network, has a Twitter. So you go at the real OPN and you'll find us there and you'll find all the content for the whole network on there. So once again, I appreciate everyone for listening. I appreciate Bob for coming on. Everybody, have a good one.